Welcome to BL Stories, where romance, drama, and unforgettable boys' love come to life. Love knows no limits, and the best stories aren't always straight. Subscribe now and join our growing BL-loving family. Lucas Vargas firmly asserts his heterosexuality but struggles to deny his feelings for Charlie Grayson, as their encounters evolve beyond mere physical connection into something reminiscent of love. This development challenges Lucas as he becomes more intimately acquainted with Charlie, unveiling feelings of attraction intertwined with emotional turmoil. Beneath the surface, a hidden, darker secret complicates matters, forcing Lucas to confront his confusion about his sexuality, his loneliness, and his growing affection for Charlie. Set in a small town rife with gossip, the boys protect their intimate relationship from scrutiny. However, the arrival of a neighboring girl poses a threat to their fragile bond, intensifying the backlash Lucas faces from longtime friends regarding his closeness to Charlie. Additionally, the increasing visibility of bruises on Charlie's body raises alarming concerns that push Lucas to a critical juncture where he must decide how to navigate their relationship amidst external pressures and internal conflicts. Chapter 1. I didn't know Charlie very well. My memories of him have gaps, years where he seemed to vanish even though we went to the same schools all our lives. I remember when we were both in Little League Baseball. Charlie always wore long-sleeved shirts under his jersey, the kind with his name and number printed on the back. His sharp shoulder blades pressed against the fabric like the start of invisible wings. We were 9, and I couldn't understand why he always wore sleeves, no matter how hot it got. Coach once said he had eczema, and I accepted that without really knowing what it meant. A few years later, he was in the middle school marching band, playing drums. Same long sleeves. I remember watching him in the Memorial Day parade down Main Street, his light blonde hair glowing in the sun. Charlie was almost translucent in that light, his skin pale and dotted with freckles. He played with so much energy that day, it was impossible not to notice. By high school, I'd see him in the hallways sometimes, but we never spoke. He had grown taller and leaner, his features delicate but with a quiet sharpness to them. I'd often spot him skateboarding in the school parking lot when I was heading home. He'd glide in easy circles, attempt a jump, and laugh when the board slipped away. He'd chase it down before it rolled into the street, completely carefree. We didn't really start talking until the beginning of junior year. Was it fate? Maybe. Was it good or bad luck? I'll let you decide. All I know is how it began. Hey, Lucas. I looked up, blinking through the haze of a summer night. I was sitting on the patio of someone's house in a new subdivision, holding my third beer of the night. I wasn't much of a drinker, but my friends from art class had already left, and I was too tired to mingle with the jocks and cheerleaders who were still there. Charlie stood above me, smiling under the porch lights. His hair was messy, a thin silver ring glinting in his nose. He wore a loose, striped sweater that fell off one shoulder, showing a hint of collarbone, and white sneakers that had seen better days. "What are you doing out here?" he asked. "Watching them play chicken fight," I said, nodding toward the pool. My classmates were laughing and splashing, sitting on each other's shoulders and trying to knock each other down. Everyone was in swimsuits, the air filled with the sound of music and water. "Ah," he said, amused. "Mind if I sit?" "Go ahead." He sat cross-legged beside me and pulled a small plastic tube from his pocket. Inside was a rolled joint. I didn't say anything, just watched him light it, the orange glow reflecting in his eyes. "I'll share," he said, holding it toward me. I hesitated, but he smiled, and for some reason, that was enough to make me take it. As I cupped my hand around the end to help him light it, my hand brushed against his cheek. His skin was soft. "Thanks, Lucas," he said, exhaling a puff of smoke that curled around him. "Your turn." I took a slow drag, feeling the calmness wash over me. "This party's kind of dull," Charlie admitted, tucking one leg against his chest. "I came thinking there'd be something more interesting to do. Guess I was wrong." We passed the joint back and forth, the conversation coming easier as the minutes slipped by. "I don't usually drink this much," I admitted. "I think I overdid it." I can tell, he said with a small grin, his knee bumping mine. Neither of us moved away. Are you heading home soon? I asked quietly. I didn't want him to leave. I think the party's over for me. Not sure, he said, his tone thoughtful. Depends on what happens next. By the time we finished the joint, the stars above seemed sharper, and the world felt softer. I couldn't stop looking at him, at how he still resembled the quiet kid I once played baseball with, though the roundness of youth was long gone. You're staring, he said softly, breaking the silence. Sorry, I laughed, my words slow and light. Remember when we were kids? Yeah, he said, tilting his head. Why? Why aren't we friends anymore? We used to play baseball together. I played for 1 year, Charlie said with a half smile. You were always too busy being cool to notice me. You're cool, I teased, nudging him with my elbow. Super cool. He ducked his head, cheeks pink, and I couldn't help smiling. Did you know we're neighbors? He asked suddenly. I live 2 streets over. Always have. What? No way, I said, genuinely surprised. I was gone for a while, he admitted. My parents sent me to a school out of state. One of those places that tries to change who you are. The light mood shifted. I realized what he meant. I didn't know you went away, I said quietly. That must have been hard. He shrugged. It's okay. I'm home now. There was a pause before he added, my dad doesn't really like you. Why not? He hesitated, eyes down. He doesn't like people who look different from him. For a second, I didn't know what to say. That's not okay, I finally said. My mom's from Mexico, but I was born here. We're as local as anyone else. I don't care where you're from, Charlie said gently. I think you're a good person. He smiled shyly. And honestly, I think you're pretty cool looking too. I laughed, not at him but at how unexpectedly honest he was. Thanks. You're not bad yourself. He smiled again, his shoulder brushing mine. For a moment, the noise of the party faded, and all I could hear was the sound of water lapping against the pool's edge. There were small tears in the knees of his jeans. Without thinking, I traced one of them with my finger, the frayed fabric soft beneath my touch. Charlie glanced at me, his expression somewhere between surprise and curiosity. Do you think I'm cool looking too? I asked, half teasing. He nodded, eyes lowered. Yeah, he said softly. I do. I grinned, my hand falling away, but the warmth between us stayed. That night was the first time I really saw Charlie, not as the kid from Little League or the quiet drummer in the marching band, but as someone who had always been there, waiting to be noticed. Hey, Charlie said, his voice quieter now, almost uncertain. Do you want to go somewhere less crowded? I'm kind of tired of everyone here. He wasn't looking at me when he said it. His eyes stayed on the water, the rippling reflections of the pool lights dancing across his pale skin. When I think back to that night, I usually blame the haze in my head, the alcohol, the smoke, the heavy air of the party. It's easier than admitting the truth, that I followed him into the house because I wanted to. Because something about him drew me in. The house was huge, echoing with laughter and music from downstairs. We slipped into one of the guest bathrooms, shutting the noise out behind us. The muffled bass from the living room thudded faintly through the walls. Charlie leaned against the counter, his fingers brushing the cool granite. His chest rose and fell quickly, and I realized he was nervous. So was I. For a moment, neither of us said anything. The silence was thick, the kind that hums with everything unspoken. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. Then, without warning, Charlie moved closer, just enough that I could see the tiny freckles scattered across his nose and the faint reflection of light in his eyes. And then he kissed me. It wasn't sudden or forceful. It was cautious, an uncertain spark that surprised us both. His hands lifted to my hair, fingers trembling slightly as he touched me, as if testing whether this was real. When we finally broke apart, his voice came out as a whisper. You're not what I expected. Neither are you, I replied softly. There was a quiet laugh between us, part disbelief, part relief. For a while, we just stood there, the sound of the party outside fading into nothing. It felt like the world had stopped for a moment, just long enough for us to exist in our own small space. Charlie tugged at the hem of his sweater, suddenly self-conscious. Can we just keep this between us? Of course, I said. I won't say a word. He nodded, looking both shy and grateful. There was a warmth between us now, unsteady but real. I could tell neither of us knew what to call it yet, or even if we should. After a long pause, he asked, "Was this okay?" "Yeah," I said, my voice quiet but sure. "Yeah, it was." His lips curved into a small smile, the kind that made his dimple appear, a single, deep crease in his left cheek that made him look both boyish and brave. "Good," he said softly. "I'm glad." For a moment, everything felt still. The smell of cologne and soap hung faintly in the air, and the glow from the hallway light framed him in soft gold. "You really do live near me?" I asked after a while, breaking the silence. He nodded. "Just a few streets away. Always have." I blinked, a little embarrassed. Guess I should have noticed that before. "It's okay," he said with a small laugh. "You're noticing now." There was something gentle in his tone, something that made me think of the way he'd smiled when we were kids, even if I hadn't paid attention back then. "Well," I said finally, smiling a little, "I can give you a ride to school sometime." "Sure," he replied, his grin growing wider. "That would be nice." That night wasn't just about what happened, it was about how it started. Two people, both a little lost, finding something unexpected in each other. And that's how it all began for me and him. Chapter 2. Present. It's the summer of the cicadas. They don't appear every year. Only once every 17 years do they emerge from the soil to sing their sharp, endless chorus across the world above. Day and night, they hum and whine, their hollow shells piling on the porch steps and drying out in the corners of our home. No matter how often I sweep or vacuum, they always find their way back. It's a heavy, humid summer, typical for Connecticut. We live on the quieter side of the lake, where the cottages are weathered and the walls too thin to withstand a full winter. Across the water, you can see the summer homes of wealthy New Yorkers, shining like they belong to another world. You'd think living by the lake would bring a cool breeze, but lately, it's only come after sunset. This morning, the scent of frying eggs and toast drifts into my room. My mom's working a later shift at the hospital, which means she's probably in her teal scrubs by now, ready to remind me that sleeping past 10 is a waste of daylight. I'll tell her I don't have a shift at the hardware store today, that I've earned this sleep after a long school year. It's 9:30 when I hear a light tapping on my window. The sound vibrates right next to my head. My bed is pressed against the wall beneath the window. I groan, already knowing who it is before I pull up the shade. Charlie stands there, grinning in that mischievous way he always does. His teeth are sharp, almost too perfect. There's something wild about that smile, something both familiar and unsettling. He bends slightly, speaking through the screen, his breath fogging the mesh. "Wake up, Lucas. You sleep like the dead." "Charlie, use the front door," I mutter, lowering the shade again. "I'm not removing the screen so you can climb through." "It's more fun this way," he calls back. I shake my head and close the window completely, muffling his voice. If he really wants to see me, he can ring the bell like a normal person. It doesn't take long before my mom knocks on my door. "Lucas, Charlie's here to see you," she calls cheerfully. "I made breakfast and told him to stay." I sigh, already picturing the scene outside my door, my mom standing with one hand raised to knock again, and Charlie behind her, probably smirking. But when I open the door, he's not smirking. He's standing quietly behind her, wearing a black turtleneck, odd for a day that's supposed to reach the high 80s, and a pair of short athletic shorts that clearly weren't designed for him. There's a faint sheen of sweat on his upper lip, and his usual playful energy is nowhere to be found. "Put some pants on me, Joe," my mom says, exasperated. "You have a guest." She turns to leave for work, and I give Charlie a faint grin, trying to coax one out of him. But his expression stays unreadable, his usual spark dimmed. I miss the way he laughs so easily, how his joy can light up even the dullest day. Once my mom's gone, I pull on a pair of jeans and step out of my room. Charlie's waiting quietly in the hallway. We've known each other long enough that silence between us can speak louder than words. It's going to be hot today, I say, tugging lightly at the collar of his turtleneck. You sure you don't want to borrow a t-shirt? He shakes his head. I'm fine. Suit yourself. I shrug. In the kitchen, breakfast waits on the counter, a cast iron skillet filled with eggs and toast, and a plate of croissants wrapped in plastic. I start to reach for one. Not so fast, my mom says, sweeping in with her purse already over her shoulder. Those are for the new neighbors. I pause mid-reach. Who? Daryl and Janet, she says, turning on the small air conditioner in the window. They just moved into the cottage by the water. I want you to take these over after you eat. Can't I just have one? I try. No, she replies firmly, then glances at Charlie. Make sure Lucas doesn't eat any of them, okay? Charlie smiles, that small dimple forming on his cheek. I'll make sure, he says. They exchange a friendly look, and I can't help but smile too. My mom has that effect on people, especially him. Perfect. She leans over, kisses my forehead, and adds, I'll be home by 11. We both wave as she leaves, and then the house falls quiet again, except for the hum of the air conditioner. I stand in front of the vent, letting the cold air hit my face. Come here, I say, gesturing for Charlie to join me. You look like you're melting. He steps closer and I position him right in front of the cool air. Better. He nods slowly. We don't say much after that. Some days, Charlie fills every silence with laughter or teasing. Today, he just listens. There's something heavy about his stillness that I can't quite name. When Charlie gets quiet like this, I always feel torn. Part of me wants to give him space, and another part wants to bring back that spark in his eyes. I'd do almost anything to see it again. Maybe later we can watch one of your nature documentaries, I say finally. The ones about penguins or birds. That earns me a faint smile. Sure, he says softly. I'd like that. And just like that, the heaviness in the air feels a little lighter. Outside, the cicadas sing again, loud and restless, filling the summer air. We eat together at the kitchen table, our feet bumping occasionally beneath it. I'm relieved to see Charlie eating with real appetite today. He doesn't always. The eggs are a little cold, and honestly, I'd prefer one of the croissants sitting on the counter. We top our food with my mom's homemade tomatillo salsa, the kind that tastes like summer in a bowl. The plates we're using are chipped porcelain ones from Goodwill, part of a set my mom and I found during one of her weekend thrift hunts. She said the cracks gave them character. I guess we should drop off those croissants now, I say with a teasing grin. Maybe they have a cute son. A boy next door situation. Charlie doesn't even glance up. Wouldn't matter to me, he says, stacking his empty plate on mine. I'm not interested in meeting anyone. We're going to be seniors soon, I remind him as if he's forgotten. You've never had a boyfriend. Cool, he says flatly. Perfect time to start something that'll probably end before college even begins. I chuckle. I'm a commitment guy. When I find the right girl, I'm going to marry her. He smirks faintly. Sure, Lucas. Just remember to send me an invite to the wedding. He gets up and carries the plates to the sink. I watch as he rinses them, noticing the tiny details he probably wishes I didn't. The chipped black polish clinging to the tips of his fingernails, the raw skin around his cuticles. A few days ago, his nails were freshly painted, and he'd been happier. It suited him. I almost tell him that, but I don't. Outside, the air smells like pine and warm soil. The plate of croissants sweats slightly in my hands from the humidity. At the end of our road, sunlight glints off the lake like a mirror, distracting me from the cracks in the pavement and the dry grass growing between them. Over the years, a lot of the houses around here have been remodeled, old cottages turned into summer homes. Winters in this part of Connecticut can be brutal, and if you forget to stock up before the snow, you're stuck. I don't blame people for leaving when the cold hits. The new neighbor's house is a small white cape by the water, with a wraparound porch and bright blue shutters. It's simple but charming. I knock on the door, stepping back beside Charlie while we wait. The wood beneath our feet creaks, and a beach towel hangs from one of the porch chairs, a sign someone's already made use of the lake today. I'm ready to give up and eat the pastries myself when the door opens. Standing there is the most beautiful girl I've ever seen. Her voice, when she speaks, is light and warm. Hello. For a second, I forget how to talk. Hi. Charlie says first, saving me from my awkward silence. I'm Charlie and this is Lucas. She smiles and shakes his hand before turning to me. I'm Allison. It's nice to meet you both. This is for you, I say quickly, holding out the plate. My mom baked them. We live in the ranch house 3 doors down. Oh, your mom is Anna Maria, right? She says, her face lighting up. I grin. Yeah, that's her. Got it, she says, looking between us. Lucas and Charlie. I'll remember that. You two aren't brothers, are you? Nope, I reply with a laugh, slinging an arm over Charlie's shoulder. But close enough, right? Allison squints playfully. If I squint hard enough, maybe. You've got very different styles, though. I like your swimsuit, Charlie says politely. It's really nice. Thanks, she says with a grin. I went for a swim this morning. The water's warmer than I expected. I nod, trying to focus on what she's saying and not how easily she smiles. Are you here for the summer? All year, she replies, her tone cheerful. My parents decided to retire here. They're from Connecticut originally, but I grew up in Manhattan. I'll be going to Nanuag this fall, senior year. My eyes widen. Us too. Really? She beams. That's perfect. Maybe I'll see you at school then. I'm sure you will, I say, hoping my voice sounds casual and not too eager. She glances down at the croissants. Well, I should get this inside before they melt in the heat. Tell your mom thank you for me. Will do, I say with a grin. It was nice meeting you both, she says warmly before closing the door. Charlie and I walk home in silence. The sun beats down on us, the air thick with the sound of cicadas. When we reach my driveway, Charlie finally speaks. She's really pretty, isn't she? His tone is neutral, but his lips are pressed in a thin line. Pretty? I say, half laughing. She's amazing. I think I might already be in love. Charlie's eyes flick toward me briefly, his expression unreadable. A strand of pale hair sticks to his forehead, and he brushes it away. I just don't get it, he mutters. I don't feel that way about people. Hey, I say gently, surprised by his tone. Don't be upset. I'm not upset, he says quickly, but his voice is sharp. Yes, you are, I say, exasperated. You get quiet and cold when something's bothering you. Maybe I just don't like watching you fall for every stranger with a nice smile, he snaps, taking a few steps ahead of me. I stop, folding my arms. I'm not doing anything wrong, Charlie. It's summer. A new girl moves in, and I happen to like her. I'm human, you know. He turns back, frustration flickering across his face. Not every guy feels the same way you do, he says softly. There are people who don't. I blink, realizing I may have crossed a line. I didn't mean it like that, I say quickly. Charlie's shoulders sag, his anger fading. It's fine. The tension between us lingers, though, heavy as the air around us. Come on, I say finally, my voice softer. Let's just go inside. It's too hot to argue. We'll watch something you can pick. After a pause, he nods. Okay. And just like that, the fight is over. He follows me up the steps, quiet again, lost somewhere deep in his thoughts. I glance at him as we go inside, wondering not for the first time why he trusts me as much as he does, and why, when he looks at me that way, my heart starts to beat a little faster. Chapter 3. It took me 2 days to finish drawing Charlie. We sat outside on my back patio, each of us in plastic lawn chairs. I told him to wear the same thing each day, and he did. A chunky pink sweater that hung loosely off his shoulders. It was bitterly cold that November, our breath forming small clouds in the crisp air. Charlie never complained once about the chill, even though his ankles were covered in goosebumps where his pants had ridden up. I wore fingerless gloves, trying to keep my hands warm enough to hold my pencil steady, but I became so focused on sketching him that I barely noticed the cold at all. Charlie turned out to be the best model I'd ever had. For hours, he sat almost perfectly still, keeping his head tilted at just the right angle. When I reached out to gently adjust his chin, he stayed still, completely calm, trusting me to move him into place. Because I was drawing his portrait, we didn't talk much. It was difficult to have a real conversation when he needed to keep still. So, when he quietly asked me to tell him about myself, I did. It felt strange talking at him rather than to him, but every so often he'd give me a small nod or a faint smile to show he was listening. I told him things I'd never said out loud before, about how I wished I'd met my dad, even though he left when I was a baby. About how, sometimes, being one of the few Mexican kids at school made me feel like I only stood out because I was different. I even told him about Kylie, and how I missed her sometimes, even though our relationship had fallen apart. Somewhere during those long hours, I realized how beautiful Charlie really was. My art specialty was figure drawing and realistic portrait work, so I noticed every detail: the curve of his lashes, the faint vein in his neck, the shape of his lips when he tried not to smile. He looked almost otherworldly in the fading light, like someone who didn't quite belong in this small countryside town. Maybe that was something we had in common. When I finally finished, I sat back and said, "Okay, I think I'm done." He blinked, trying to hold his position. "You think? So, can I move my head now?" "Yeah," I said, suddenly nervous. "You can relax." He stretched with a relieved sigh. "Oh man, that feels great." His breath fogged in the air. "Can I see it?" I hesitated for a second before turning the sketchbook around. The portrait looked almost too real, every line and shadow in its place. Charlie stared at it, then at me, then back again. My stomach twisted, thinking he might hate it. But his voice was soft when he finally spoke. "Is this what I look like to you?" "Yes," I said quietly. "That's how I see you." He blinked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Wow, that's incredible. You did an amazing job, Lucas." I smiled awkwardly and gave his arm a light tap, trying to ease the intensity in the air. "You can keep it. It's yours." He hesitated, his expression uncertain. "What, don't you want it?" "I do," he said quickly. "I really do. Maybe I can leave it here." "Why?" I asked, confused. He looked down, scuffing the toe of his shoe against the patio. "My dad doesn't know I come over here sometimes. He gets weird about things. I don't want him asking questions." "Oh," I said softly, realizing I'd pushed too far. "That's fine. You can leave it here." He smiled a little shyly. "Thanks. I really do love it. You made me look good." I felt a rush of warmth that had nothing to do with the cold. Spending hours sketching his face had made me feel strangely connected to him. He trusted me with his stillness, and I trusted him with my stories. "You do look good," I said before I could stop myself. "You're a really kind person, Charlie. It was nice spending time with you like this." He smiled wider, and I caught myself rubbing my cold hands over my face. "Sorry," I said quickly. "That came out weird." "No," he said softly. "It wasn't weird." He tilted his head, hair falling against his cheek. "You said you wanted to be honest with me. Go ahead." I hesitated. I'm not sure what last week meant," I said carefully. "That was new for me. I've never felt that way around another guy before. You're a good person, Charlie. I just don't really know what to do with all this." He nodded, his eyes distant but calm. "That's okay," he said simply. "I understand. I still want to be friends," I added quickly. "You're one of the best people I know." He smiled gently. "Then I'll take that. Friends." I studied him for a moment, realizing how fragile that word felt between us. Something deeper lingered in the air, something unspoken but understood. Neither of us could have known how complicated that friendship would become, or how tightly our lives would soon be tangled together. Chapter 4. Present. "I'm sorry." Charlie stands in front of me, holding 2 iced coffees. The ice cubes are nearly melted, and condensation drips down his hands. His fingers must be freezing. "I'm sorry for being upset," he says quietly. I drop the garden hose to the ground, where water continues spilling into the grass. I'd been watering my mom's peonies when he appeared at the end of the driveway. He hadn't texted, but I wasn't surprised to see him. It had been 2 days since we'd last talked. You don't need to apologize, I say. He doesn't respond. He kicks a loose stone, watching it roll across the cracked pavement until it stops in a shallow dip. His gaze lingers on it, like the stone suddenly holds all his thoughts. Charlie, I call softly. He finally looks at me. It takes him effort. During arguments or awkward moments, he never meets my eyes. I used to think it meant he was hiding something, but now I know it means he's scared. We both love the same coffee order, iced coffee with almond milk and 2 pumps of caramel. It started as his drink, but over time it became ours. We drank it all winter, even when there was snow on the ground, sitting in my car with the heater on. We drank it through the spring while hiking and at the skate park. Now, every time I taste caramel, I think of him. Have you seen Allison? He asks suddenly, his voice cracking. I shake my head. No. She hasn't been by since the day we brought her the croissants. Oh. His mouth twitches, a small tell when something bothers him, but he keeps looking at me because I asked him to. Okay. Do you want to come in? I offer. He nods. Yeah. I take the coffee from his hand and lead him inside. In my room, the fan hums quietly in the window, blowing cool air through the space. It lifts strands of his hair and makes them dance. I turn on some music from my Bluetooth speaker, songs I added to a playlist months ago, just for him. He grins when he hears one of his favorite artists start singing. He's always chewing on his straw by the time he gets halfway through a drink, and today is no different. The pop song fills the room, lyrics about a girl who wants the world. But all I want is the boy sitting in front of me. I take a sip of my coffee, the taste sweet and heavy on my tongue. Charlie flops onto my bed and looks up at the ceiling, the soft rhythm of the fan filling the silence between us. I sit beside him, close enough to feel the warmth of his shoulder near mine. For a moment, we just breathe together. No words, no explanations, just the quiet sound of the music blending with the hum of the fan. Then, as he shifts slightly, I notice the faint yellow marks on his shoulders. Old bruises, almost faded now. I understand in that instant why he'd been hiding under that turtleneck a few days ago. My throat tightens and I look away, pretending not to notice. I don't ask questions. I never do when it comes to the marks. He doesn't talk about them, and I've never found the right words to ask. He sits up and looks at me, his eyes searching mine. Are we okay? He asks softly. I nod, but it feels too easy an answer for something that doesn't feel simple anymore. He lets out a breath, shoulders relaxing slightly. I hate fighting with you, he murmurs. I hate it too, I admit, especially when I don't even know what we're fighting about. He laughs under his breath, quiet, almost bitter. Me neither. For a while, we sit there, our coffees half finished on the dresser. I think about how strange it is that something as small as a drink could tie us together through every season. That caramel flavor, the sweetness, the bitterness, the warmth, is the same one I now associate with him. I missed you, he says suddenly, breaking the silence. I glance at him, but he's already looking down, tracing the rim of his cup with his thumb. I missed you too, I reply, my voice low. He smiles faintly, but it doesn't quite reach his eyes. There's something fragile there, something that tells me he's trying to hold himself together. Sometimes I think about telling someone what I've seen. The bruises, the quiet sadness behind his eyes, the way he flinches when I reach for him too fast. But then I remember how he smiles when he spots me at school, or how his eyes light up when my mom invites him for dinner, and I lose the courage to speak. Where would he go if not home? Would things really be better? The truth is, I don't know how to help him. But I know that when he's here, in this room, he feels safe. And for now, that has to be enough. He leans his head on my shoulder, and I feel his breath, steady, real, and warm. I rest my hand over his, letting the silence stretch between us like an unspoken promise. We don't need words to know that we both needed this moment. Just the sound of our breathing, the fan, and a song about wanting everything, but finding comfort, instead, in something far smaller and more real. I'm sorry. Charlie stands in front of me, holding 2 iced coffees. The ice has nearly melted, and condensation trickles down his fingers. He looks nervous, his voice soft. I'm sorry for being upset. I dropped the garden hose, letting water spill onto the grass. I'd been watering my mom's peonies when he appeared, walking up the driveway. Even though I hadn't seen him for 2 days, I wasn't surprised by his voice. Somehow, I always know when he's nearby. You don't have to apologize for that, I tell him gently. He doesn't reply. Charlie, I coax. He nudges a loose stone with his shoe, sending it skittering down the driveway. The coffee cups shift in his hands, the straws bending awkwardly. His eyes follow the stone until it stops, as if staring at it long enough could change everything. Charlie, look at me. When he finally does, I see that familiar flicker in his eyes, fear and vulnerability. In the past, he'd always avoided eye contact during tense moments. It used to frustrate me, but now I know it's not avoidance, it's anxiety. We both love the same coffee. Iced, almond milk, 2 pumps of caramel. It used to be his drink until he started bringing me one too. Now it's ours. The taste reminds me of long walks, early mornings, and quiet car rides filled with laughter. It reminds me of him. He shifts on his feet. Have you seen Allison? His voice cracks slightly. No, I reply. She hasn't stopped by since we brought her those croissants. Oh. He looks down. Okay. Do you want to come in? He hesitates, then nods. Yeah. He hands me one of the coffees and I lead him inside. In my room, the fan hums in the window, pushing warm air around. Charlie sits on the edge of my bed, his hair blowing gently in the breeze. I turn on some music, a playlist I made for him months ago. He smiles when his favorite artist's song begins. The lyrics are about longing and dreams, and for a moment, I feel like they were written for us. He takes a sip of his drink, chewing absent-mindedly on the straw. I watch him, my heart tightening at how calm and familiar it feels to have him here. I set my coffee on the dresser and sit beside him. He lies back, gazing up at the ceiling. I join him, the fan's rhythm filling the quiet between us. There's something unspoken in the air, something fragile and heavy at once. I reach out and touch his hand. He squeezes back gently. Are you okay? I ask softly. He shrugs, still staring upward. Yeah, just tired. But I can see the faint bruises on his shoulder, the reason for the long sleeves lately. My throat tightens. He told me once that he wears them so no one at school asks questions. I don't say anything. I just shift closer and let our shoulders touch. For a long moment we stay like that. The sunlight outside fades into a soft orange glow through the curtains. The warmth of his skin against mine is enough to say everything words can't. Later he murmurs, "It's so hot." He glances at the melted coffee on my desk. Even the ice gave up. I laugh quietly, leaning toward the fan. Yeah, it feels like summer's trying to melt the whole world. He lies beside me again, this time more relaxed. We talk about small things. His favorite songs, the latest skate video he's obsessed with, the cat that keeps sneaking into his backyard. I listen, smiling at how his voice softens when he talks about the things he loves. Then his tone shifts. I can't stay too long today. My mom's making dinner. What's she making? I ask. Chicken parm, he says with a faint smirk. My favorite. I frown. You don't even eat chicken parm, Charlie. I know, he sighs. I'll just eat the salad. That's not right, I say, irritation slipping into my voice. You haven't eaten meat in years. They should at least make something for you. It's fine, he says quietly, but it's not fine. It never is when it comes to his parents. They've tried to mold him into someone he isn't, and every mark on his skin, every quiet wince, tells me how much that's cost him. He turns toward me, smiling weakly. His lips are still a little red from earlier. There's exhaustion in his eyes, but also something tender. I want to hold him, to keep him safe, to make the world stop hurting him. Come over for dinner tomorrow, I tell him suddenly. My mom's making empanadas. We can make some vegetarian ones for you. He looks surprised. Really? Yeah, I say. She's been working a lot lately, but she wants to have dinner together. We can watch a movie or play cards after. He smiles, a real one this time. That sounds great. When he leaves, I walk him to the door and watch him go until he disappears down the street. Then I sit on the front steps, scrolling through my phone to distract my thoughts. The sky is streaked with gold and purple. That's when I hear a familiar voice. "Hey you!" I look up, and there she is. Allison. She's wearing an oversized windbreaker over a floral sundress, her hair glowing in the setting sun. "I was hoping you'd be home," she says brightly, walking toward me. "Hey, Allison." I tuck my phone into my pocket and give her an easy smile. "What's up?" "Well," she teases, "I was about to go for a walk to the beach all alone to watch the sunset, but then I remembered I made a new friend." I grin. "A new friend, huh? Who could that be?" She laughs softly. "Some boy who brought me croissants." My heart thuds in my chest. "What do you say?" she asks. "Come with me." "Why not?" I say, giving her a playful wink. "I don't have anything better to do." And just like that, the night opens before me, warm, uncertain, and full of possibility. Chapter 5. This is how our friendship changed for the first time. The snow fell heavily outside, covering the streets and rooftops in a thick, silent blanket. I worried about my mom, commuting home after her late shift at 11. I told Charlie my fears, and he tried to reassure me. Pulling up the weather forecast, he showed me the predicted accumulation, 6 inches overnight. He insisted it wasn't too bad. I watched him scroll through the map, pretending that seeing the weatherman point to the storm made me feel better. Despite growing up in Connecticut, I never fully adjusted to the winters. The snow made the lake unrecognizable, coated the roads with ice, and left me feeling trapped inside my own house. Cold and isolation always frightened me. My mom often told me our ancestors were from warmer climates, and maybe one day I'd find a reason to move back to Mexico. Charlie plopped down on the sofa and closed the weather app. "Do you want to watch something on Netflix?" he asked. Sometimes when I'm upset, a good horror movie helps. Seeing people in scary situations makes my problems feel smaller. I glanced out the window at the dark, snow-covered yard. "I hate when my mom works late," I admitted. "It's lonely. You'd think I'd like the quiet, but it just doesn't feel good." He reached over and tucked his hand into the crook of my arm. I didn't pull away. "I get it," he said. "I feel alone a lot too. I wish I had siblings, or a dog. I love dogs. You should get a dog, Lucas." I looked at him, surprised. "But you have parents. Aren't they home?" "They make me feel more alone sometimes," he admitted. His palm was warm against my skin. "Sometimes I feel like I'm the only one who's different." "Different how?" I asked gently. He didn't answer, letting his hand drop to his side. He moved to sit on the sofa properly, tucking his ankles beneath him and patting the empty space beside him. Outside, the snow continued to fall, silent and thick. By the time we decided on a movie, it was already 9 at night. I thought he would leave soon, but instead he sank deeper into the couch as we began The Shining. Sleepiness soon took over him. His eyelids drooped, fluttered, and finally his head rested lightly against my shoulder. I stared down at him, taking in the soft color of his hair and the way he hugged himself slightly, as if he were comforting himself. When I shifted under his head, he stirred awake, and our eyes met. "Are you still worried, Lucas?" he asked softly. "Not as much," I replied, missing the weight of his head on my shoulder. "Thanks for hanging out." "It's cool," he murmured. "I like hanging out." I caught myself staring at his hands, wishing I could reach out and hold them, wishing I could comfort him more. My heart raced as I gently cupped his cheek. He leaned slightly into my touch, and for a moment, the world outside the room, the snow, the storm, the dark streets, faded away. We sat in silence, letting the warmth and closeness speak for us. The movie continued in the background, but it felt secondary. I smiled when he laughed at a line, and he smiled back when I nudged him lightly. Later, we both leaned back, talking quietly about trivial things, school, hobbies, favorite snacks. The snow outside made everything feel softer, slower, almost magical. I realized then how much I had come to rely on these moments, the quiet comfort of his presence. At some point, I noticed a mark on his forearm, jagged scars, healed but still visible. My heart tightened. I didn't know the full story behind them, but I knew enough to understand that Charlie had been hurt before. Physically, emotionally, in ways I could only guess. I squeezed his hand gently. "You're safe here," I whispered. He didn't need me to say more. I could see the relief in his eyes, the slight relaxation of his shoulders, the way he exhaled like he could finally let go of some weight. And for the first time, I realized our friendship had changed. It wasn't just comfort or camaraderie anymore. There was something deeper, a connection that could carry us through the storms, inside and out. The snow kept falling, and we stayed there together, letting the warmth between us grow, unspoken but strong as the night stretched on. Inside his arms, there were scars I recognized as burns, the skin still mottled and tender in places. Some of the marks formed neat patches, and a few thin ones on his upper arms curved in strange shapes. He ducked his head, staring down at himself with a mixture of shame and uncertainty. I watched quietly as he fiddled nervously with a loose string on my quilt. "You're amazing," I said softly, finally breaking the silence. "Look at you, Charlie. You're really brave, and I admire that." He blinked at me, surprised by the reassurance. "I mean it," I added gently. "You've been through so much and you're still here. I'm glad you trust me enough to be around me." Charlie looked down again, playing with the quilt, but I reached out and placed a hand lightly on his shoulder. He flinched at first, then relaxed slightly under my touch. I traced my fingers over the scars carefully, letting him know that I saw him, not the marks, but him. "I want you to know," I said, "that I care about you, all of you. And I'm not going anywhere." A faint smile tugged at the corners of his lips. For a moment, he seemed to soften, letting the tension leave his body. The room was quiet except for the soft glow of the bedside lamp, casting golden light across the sheets and his face. He looked almost ethereal in the warmth, and I felt a wave of protectiveness. "I appreciate that," he whispered. "Nice to be seen." I nodded, squeezing his hand gently. "Always," I said. We sat together in silence for a few minutes, the storm outside continuing to fall in thick, swirling flakes. The snow muffled the world, leaving just the two of us in a quiet, safe space. Charlie's breathing slowly steadied, and the tension in his shoulders eased. I could tell he felt comforted, even if only a little. I watched him carefully, noticing the small ways he relaxed. The scars on his arms told a story of pain, but they also told a story of survival. And here he was, alive and trusting me. My chest tightened with emotion. "Do you want to stay over tonight?" I asked gently. "It's really coming down outside, and I don't want you to walk home in this." He looked up at me, a mixture of relief and gratitude in his eyes. "Would that be okay?" "Of course," I said. "I've got some sweatpants you can borrow. We'll make it comfortable." We changed into warm, comfortable clothes and settled in. I gave him a soft sweatshirt, knowing he might want to keep his arms covered for now. As he tugged it on, I realized I didn't mind seeing him like this, open, vulnerable, and slowly learning that it was okay to let someone in. For the rest of the evening, we sat close, talking quietly and watching the snow swirl outside. I felt a deep sense of connection, a bond that went beyond words. In that small room, in the middle of a winter storm, we found warmth not just from blankets, but from each other. And for the first time, I knew our friendship had changed, softened, deepened, and grown into something neither of us could ignore. Chapter 6. Present. "Out in New York, there aren't really any stars," Allison said, glancing up at the sky. "Just satellites and planes. The light pollution drowns out everything, even the clouds." I couldn't help but think that Allison herself was like light pollution, filling my thoughts and coloring the world around me with warmth and brightness. I got lost in her voice, in the way her hair swished over her shoulders with every movement, and the way her eyes crinkled when she laughed. I squinted at the night sky, trying to imagine it empty of stars. Above us, the lake reflected the full moon, casting a soft blue glow over the water and the sand where we lay. It was quiet, almost peaceful, and yet, the world seemed impossibly big and endless. "I can't imagine living somewhere without the stars," I said. "Sometimes when I look up at the night sky here, it's overwhelming." The open space feels so close, almost like the sky is pressing down. Allison laughed, brushing sand off her feet as they popped out from where they had been buried. "You look like a jock, but you sound like a poet," she teased. I smiled at her, shaking my head. "I'm not a poet. I'm an artist. I work with pencils and paint, not words." "Well, Lucas," she said, turning to meet my gaze, "you do art. That counts." Her smile made something warm bloom in my chest. She'd been saying my name all evening, and it had a curious effect on me. Like each time she spoke it, the sound itself left me dizzy. I noticed the way her lips moved when she talked, the confidence in her tone, and the ease with which she carried herself. "What else do you do?" she asked, playful curiosity in her eyes. I grinned. "What do you think I do?" Allison tilted her head, letting a strand of hair fall across her face. "I don't like to judge by appearances," she said. "Stereotypes are overrated." I laughed softly. "Read me like a book and I'll tell you if you're right." She giggled. "All right, Lucas. You're different from most people I meet here. You notice things, care about things, and, well, you appreciate beauty in a way that not everyone does." I felt a lump in my throat. She was describing me in a way that felt almost too accurate, highlighting sides of me I usually kept hidden. I thought of Charlie for a moment, how unique he was, how much he fascinated me, and my chest tightened. "Allison," I said, "who wouldn't want to escape when things feel small or stifling? There's beauty out there if you know where to look." She smiled knowingly, tilting her head. "Despite that, you're still grounded. You like fun and adventure, even if it's simple things. Bonfires, laughter, friends. You balance curiosity with comfort." I looked at the stars, feeling a little exposed but also oddly proud. "Is that all I was wrong about?" I teased. Her eyes sparkled. "Only in the ways that matter," she said. "You're not like everyone else here, Lucas. That's why I like talking to you." I felt a warmth spread through me at her words. "Different, huh? Never seen someone like me before." "For this area," she said with a sigh. "It's refreshing. Even Charlie is different in his own way. He reminds me of friends I had back in Manhattan." I bristled a little at the mention of Charlie, protective instinct kicking in, but I let it pass, reminding myself to stay relaxed. Lucas," Allison chuckled, shaking her head. "What am I supposed to do with you? Maybe we start with coffee tomorrow morning?" I asked, taking a chance. "I can pick you up." She threw her head back, laughing softly. "You're too much," she said, playful and teasing. "Is that a yes?" I asked, grinning when she lightly touched my arm. "I promise it'll be fun. Just coffee, and maybe some pastries." "I'd love that," she said, smiling. "Not too early though, I hate mornings before 9. I felt a rush of triumph. Hook, line, and sinker. I couldn't help but think this might be the start of something special. The stars reflected in the lake, the moonlight washing over the sand, and the quiet of the night felt infinite. For the first time in a while, the smallness of this town didn't seem so suffocating. With Allison by my side, everything felt possible. Chapter 7. Happy New Year's, I'm an asshole. It was New Year's Eve, bitterly cold. The trees were skeletal, stripped bare, and the fields of farmland were frosted and empty. The night was clear, and only a thin sliver of the moon offered light, aside from my headlights as I drove to Jacob Ramos's family home for a party. News of a party spread like wildfire at our school. Even if the host wanted it to be small, it never stayed that way. There wasn't much to do in our town during the week unless you were willing to drive 40 minutes to find something happening. Parties were how we all connected, a mix of music, laughter, and the energy of everyone around us. Since quitting wrestling, I'd felt like I was drifting. I was still friends with the guys from my old team, but now that I was focused on art, I didn't quite fit in anywhere. With the athletic kids, I was an artist out of place. With the artsy crowd, I was the jock who didn't fully belong. I'd become good at adapting, changing who I seemed to be depending on the company I kept. I parked at the end of the dirt road, wanting to avoid the crowd of cars in the driveway. Behind the house, the lake lay frozen and black, quiet and ominous in the moonlight. Inside, the party was in full swing. Music thumped through the high ceilings, kids danced with solo cups in hand, and the crystal chandelier above glimmered in the dim light. The floor seemed alive beneath my feet, the energy of the night pulsing through every movement. I drifted through the rooms, greeting friends along the way. "Hey, Lucas." "Yo, buddy." "What's up, Lucas?" Then I heard Charlie before I saw him. My attention snapped to the sound of his voice. I hadn't known he was coming to the party, and the surprise left me a little unsettled. He was always careful about where he appeared, and I hadn't asked about his New Year's plans, probably making me seem distant. I made my way toward him. He looked off. His eyeshadow had smudged, streaking down his cheeks like war paint, and his movements were sluggish. At first, I was captivated by the boldness of his look, his black mesh shirt, the way he carried himself differently from everyone else, but that quickly gave way to worry. Some of the other guys were laughing at him, making crude jokes and nudging him around. I felt a surge of protectiveness. Charlie didn't need this, and I wasn't going to let it continue. I stepped up beside him. "Hey guys," I said evenly, trying to diffuse the tension. "What's going on?" Caden grinned at me, clearly amused, but I ignored it. I focused on Charlie, who flinched at the rough movements from the others. I stayed close, careful to make sure he knew I was there. He didn't need to say anything. My presence was enough. The party continued around us, but I stayed near Charlie. Midnight was approaching, the excitement of the new year growing louder, but I wasn't thinking about the countdown. I was thinking about keeping him safe, about making sure he didn't feel alone or laughed at in a room full of people who didn't understand him. Even in the chaos, I felt a strange calm knowing I could be there for him. That night wasn't perfect, but having someone like Charlie there made it bearable. And as the seconds ticked closer to midnight, I silently promised myself I would always try to protect him, no matter how wild or unpredictable the night became. "Lucas is my friend," Charlie mumbled, clearly intoxicated. "Right, Lucas? You're my special friend." His words slurred as he tried to explain himself. The other kids turned on him, their teasing sharp and cruel. "Don't make up stories," Benji snapped. "Lucas is our friend. You're acting like you're something special to him. We'd know if that were true." I watched, feeling frozen. It was like watching a car crash. You want to look away, but you can't. They ridiculed him for his appearance, his words, even the way he carried himself. I felt a knot tighten in my chest as I saw people from my past laugh at someone who meant so much to me. "Stop," I barked suddenly. My voice cut through the noise, and everyone turned to look. Charlie's eyes were wide, and his lower lip trembled as he gripped his arms tightly. "He's my friend. Just leave him alone, okay? He's wasted. This isn't fair." Charlie looked at me, relief flickering across his face. I handed my empty beer to Caden and held out my hand to Charlie. "Come on. I'll drive you home." Outside on the cold lawn, I turned to him, frustration tightening my voice. "Charlie, what are you doing? I told you not to tell anyone about us." He shivered, unprepared for the winter chill. His makeup was smeared, streaking his cheeks, but despite the mess, there was still something striking about him. His eyes looked vulnerable, and I could see the hurt in them. "Speak up," I said more gently, softening my tone. "Or this is all over." "I thought you liked me," he whispered. I took a deep breath. "Charlie, we talked about this. I care about you, but..." I paused, realizing how overwhelmed he must feel. His tears started to fall freely, and my anger melted into concern. I wrapped my arms around him, holding him steady. "It's okay. Let's get you home." "This is who I am," he said, burying his face in my coat. "I can't change." "Okay," I replied softly. "I know who you are. You're my friend. My special friend." He looked up at me through tear-blurred eyes, shivering in the cold. I needed to get him to warmth before he froze. "We'll get out of here," I said, trying to soothe him. "Let's go somewhere safe. You'll feel better soon." His body finally loosened against mine, and I helped him into my car. He stumbled a little but didn't complain. I draped my coat over him and turned on the heat, watching as his shoulders relaxed. "Thanks," he whispered. "Charlie." 1 minute until midnight, he said, eyes brightening as he glanced at my phone. The countdown begins. I couldn't help but smile. We joined in the countdown together. 10, 9, 8. As the seconds ticked down, I felt a strange mix of relief, care, and something deeper that I couldn't quite name. 3, 2, 1. We laughed softly at the end of the countdown, relief and the energy of the night mingling around us. I looked at him, and for a moment, everything else faded. I didn't know exactly what I felt, but I knew I wanted to protect him, be there for him, no matter what. We shared a small, tentative hug, a quiet acknowledgement of our bond in the middle of the chaos around us. It was enough for now, and for the first time that night, Charlie looked safe. Chapter 8, Allison and the Zoo Animals. Present. There are certain things I like about girls. I like when they wear lipstick because it leaves a mark when they eat or sip their coffee. I like painted nails and long eyelashes. I like when they playfully touch my arm while talking, or when they borrow my jacket on a cold day. I like it when they make me feel noticed and appreciated. Allison is eating a cinnamon raisin bagel, lightly toasted, with extra strawberry cream cheese. A tiny speck of cream cheese clings to the corner of her mouth, and I find myself distracted, wondering if I should wipe it off for her. It's a small, fleeting thought, but it keeps me off balance. Anyway, she says, leaning forward, her ponytail swishing behind her. She's carefully dismantled her bagel into quarters, nibbling each piece slowly. That's how I started playing tennis. I'm disappointed they don't offer it here. We're at the town deli, sitting at a linoleum table set with salt, pepper, and ketchup. The breakfast rush keeps the place busy, with people grabbing coffee and sandwiches. It isn't fancy, but it's cozy, familiar, and everyone in town comes here. Sorry, no tennis, I say, trying to sound sympathetic. There's a girls' softball team and cheerleading though. I'm sure you'd do great at either. I can picture Allison in a cheerleading uniform or softball shorts. The other girls would either adore her or resent her instantly. She'd shake up the social order without even trying. I wonder what senior year has in store for her. I have a feeling it's going to be interesting. I don't know, she says, twirling a strand of hair around her finger. It's senior year. I don't need to join a sport, but I do want to stay active. I guess I should try an extracurricular. You look great, I say, biting into my bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich. The salt stings a bit from the roof of my mouth, but I ignore it. It's not about looks, she says sharply. I want to stay healthy. I nod quickly, hoping I didn't just come off as shallow. Me too, I say. I love working out to stay healthy. Exactly, she says with a small smile. How's the bagel? I ask, trying to shift the conversation. I expected this date to make me feel excited, but it's exhausting. I didn't sleep well last night, probably because I was nervous. And now, part of me wants to grab her and run somewhere quiet so we don't have to keep talking in front of everyone. Lucas, a hoot breaks through my thoughts. My 3 best friends have arrived, and I know they're going to make a scene. Benji, Jacob, and Caden have been my friends since middle school. We used to do everything together, hang out on weekends, play pranks, and sometimes get into trouble. They've always had my back, even when I made mistakes. Hey guys, I say, standing up and exchanging quick, friendly slaps on the back. Nothing warm or lingering, just a quick check-in. Here for breakfast? Hell yeah, Caden says, already eyeing Allison like a hawk. She just laughs at his antics. Hi, Jacob says, giving Allison a polite smile. I'm Jacob. We go through quick introductions. Allison meets Benji, Jacob, and Caden, and they all nod at each other. How do you know Lucas? Benji asks, crossing his arms. Oh, I moved a few houses down from him, Allison says, sipping her iced coffee. I'll be starting at Nanuag this fall. No way, Jacob exclaims, leaning closer. Thankfully I met Lucas, she teases. Now I have someone to show me the ropes. Well, if you ever need anything I can help, Caden says, tossing his cap in the air and catching it with a grin. I watch as Allison's eyes drift to the counter. Hey, she says quietly, it's Charlie. I glance over discreetly. Charlie is dressed neatly, khakis, a button-up shirt, and dress shoes. He's standing with a man I assume is his father. Charlie's posture is tense, his shoulders slightly slumped, and the man hovers close, occasionally touching Charlie's elbow in a way that seems controlling. Sometimes I wish Charlie could just run away with me. I drive all night to somewhere far, somewhere safe. Charlie's father isn't the rough, small-town figure I imagined. He's tall and thin, sharp-jawed, with piercing blue eyes that echo Charlie's own. There's nothing familiar about him, and the sight of them together leaves me disoriented. Charlie looks so much like him, but there's a warmth and softness in his face that the man cannot replicate. I glance back at Allison, who's watching too. The deli noise fades into the background. All I want is to keep Charlie safe, to make sure he knows someone cares. "Oh my God," Benji groans. "Don't tell Lucas that. He's so into that kid." "No, I'm not," I hiss, frustration flaring. "He's literally just my neighbor." "He's only nice to him because, what do you know," Jacob jokes awkwardly. "That's why he gives him rides after school." Allison's lips purse as the boys continues their commentary, and I sit there silently, wishing I could disappear. "Lucas loves attention," Caden announces, grinning as if we're all part of some joke. He denies it, but he's totally smitten. You should see the way Charlie looks at him in the hallway. I feel my face heating up. "I'm going to say hi," Allison says suddenly, standing so quickly her chair nearly tips over. "Are you coming or not, Lucas?" I hesitate, then follow her through the crowded deli. My heart pounds as we approach Charlie and his father. I want to turn around, but it feels impossible. "Hello, Charlie," Allison calls brightly. I know Charlie's parents drag him to a conservative church. He's told me stories about being sent away to a religious school that tried to change him. I was raised without religion, so it's hard to relate, but I can sense the weight of it on him. His tie hangs loosely, a subtle reminder of the expectations pressing down on him. Charlie looks pleasantly surprised at Allison, then freezes when he notices me. Our eyes meet, both of us unsure what to do. His father looms nearby, and my friends are watching from the table, a tense situation all around. "Hey man," I say cautiously, keeping things neutral. "Hi, Allison and Lucas," Charlie responds, forcing a small smile. "Are you both getting breakfast?" We nod in unison. His father picks up 2 sandwiches wrapped in tinfoil. I notice Charlie's usual iced coffee isn't there. I want to offer, but I'm worried it might draw unnecessary attention. "Are these your friends?" His father asks, voice calm but carrying an undercurrent of authority. I can tell Charlie is tense. "Yeah," Charlie murmurs, rubbing the back of his neck. "This is Allison and Lucas. I go to school with them." "It's good to see you, Charlie," Allison says politely. "And nice to meet you, Mr. Grayson." My stomach knots. I've heard the rumors about him, things that happened years ago, and I don't like the way he looks at Allison, or how Charlie seems to shrink beside him. Then disaster strikes. Charlie drops his sandwich, and instinctively, both he and Allison bend down to pick it up. Their heads almost collide. I see Charlie's pleading eyes, the slight tension in Allison as she straightens up, but she quickly recovers. "Yes," she says brightly. "We had a great time. I loved showing him my favorite sushi place. Remember that, Charlie?" "Yeah," Charlie says, relief flooding his expression. "We really did. We should go back." His glance flickers toward me, full of unspoken understanding. "Well," Mr. Grayson says briskly, "I'm sure we'll see you both around." "Let's hang out soon," Allison says quietly to Charlie. "I'm right down the road." Charlie nods curtly. "Bye," I manage finally. "See you later." We linger in the emptying deli for a moment until the Graysons leave. "I'm going to wait by the car," Allison says, clearly annoyed. "I don't care to say goodbye to the zoo animals." "That's fine," I mutter, still tense from the encounter. "We can leave." The mid-morning sun beats down on us. I can feel Allison's anger like a tangible force, and I brace myself. "I hate your friends," she declares, yanking the car door handle until it clicks. "And you're an asshole." Her voice carries something powerful, righteous and fiery. I can't help but admire it. She doesn't owe Charlie anything, yet she protected him despite barely knowing him. "Aren't you friends with Charlie?" she continues. What? Are those guys your favorite friends? You didn't say anything when they were making fun of him. You're weak, Lucas. I'd rather hang out with Charlie than your nasty friends. She climbs into the car. I linger a moment, fiddling with the keys. Allison always seems to hit the truth right on the head. I am weak. Inside the stifling car, I finally admit, you're right. I am an asshole. Caden, Benji, and Jacob are like brothers to me. I need them, but that doesn't excuse me. She stares ahead, unflinching. Charlie is my best friend, I continue. I see him almost every day. Then be a friend, Allison says coldly. He probably needs one. I want to argue, it's not that simple, but I know she's right. Being a friend to Charlie means putting aside my own feelings for the sake of him. Okay, I mutter, sighing. You're right. I start the car, roll down the windows, and turn on the air conditioning. I'll take you home. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening to today's BL story. If it made your heart skip a beat, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Only here on BL Stories, where love knows no limits.